Guys, real quick little, why do we call it a doomer disclaimer before we get started here? I'm not really like a Hot Toys review or unboxing kind of channel, not really a film essay or critique kind of channel either, really not qualified or certified for any of that work. There's definitely more established professionals here on the YouTubes who do that better than I ever could. I'm just a dude chasing that little nostalgic spark through movies, comics, games, collectibles, pretty much whatever excites me enough to blab into a microphone and shit out a video at any given time. And I don't really have some official video format to this either. This whole thing's, it's kind of experimental.
Do I really look like a guy with a plan?
Before I nerd out about expensive toys for the next 10 minutes, little backstory. Some doomer lore, if you will. For most of my life, I was a proud nerd, man. Fully embraced it. Movies, comics, collectibles, all that nerdy pop culture goodness. And that carried me through most of my teenage years and into my early adult life, eventually culminating for me personally with Logan and Avengers Endgame. Two massive cinematic events that honestly felt like the closing of a chapter, not just for those stories, but for my own little nerd era too. Somewhere around that point, I kind of started tuning out. Superhero movies, movies in general, I just became more of a casual viewer. Before I knew it, I had fallen into the deep, dark, soulless abyss of adulting. You know, work, responsibilities, taxes, emails, alarm clocks. The slow, colorless erosion of the human spirit, just grinding away day by day, becoming a responsible adult, a productive member of society, a husk of my former self.
But we did have one idea. Hey, Hugh, you want to play Wolverine one more time?
Yeah, sure, Ryan.
Dude, holy shit, I remembered who I was. A feeling came rushing back, that hype that I hadn't felt since my teenage years. Hugh Jackman was back as Wolverine. And in the yellow suit, dude, they were actually doing it? I mean, dude, look at this. This looks awesome. Obviously, that was more than enough to get my ass back into a movie theater seat again, where I proceeded to giggle like a damn child throughout the duration of the movie. After the movie, I couldn't contain my nerdy outbursts, man. I wouldn't shut up about it for weeks to whoever was around. That nerdy energy just had to go somewhere, which led me down a very dangerous path. Because not long after that, I stumbled across the Hot Toys Deadpool announcement from the film, which would turn out to be my gateway drug into Hot Toys. Alright, time to talk about some toys. Now, this is my first Hot Toys figure ever, the Deadpool and Wolverine official Deadpool figure. And I can tell you that I distinctly remember opening this figure for the first time and just being completely blown away. The unboxing experience alone was so memorable. The box art, this brand new figure smell, and the second I pulled the figure out of the box and actually had it in my hands, I immediately realized, okay, this is on a completely different level than anything I had owned before. Growing up, I collected a lot of 1/12 scale stuff, like NECA, Marvel Legends, things like that. But this was my first time holding a highly detailed 1/6 scale Hot Toys figure, and I honestly didn't even realize things could be this detailed and premium. The suit materials, the stitching, the textures, the paintwork, everything just felt incredibly intricate and well made. It's one of those things where the second you hold it, you immediately understand why these things cost what they cost. Getting into the accessories, and you get more stuff than I even know what to friggin' do with. You get multiple swap out hands and eye expressions, so you can try and replicate all those expressive and zesty ass Ryan Reynolds poses. You get two pairs of really cool black and gold Desert Eagle pistoleros with crazy tiny sculpted movie accurate writing and emblems. The badass katanas that magnetize onto the back sheath, baby knife, a fully articulated baby pool which also includes swap out eye expressions, and an articulated head pool. And this version also came with the special edition display base, which has the sculpted rock design instead of the standard flat base. But honestly, as cool as all the details and accessories are, the thing that really got me was the vibe, dude. This thing is so cool. And I don't think collectors talk about that part enough. It's not just about owning a figure, it's about how it kind of pulls you back into the world of the movie, the character, the nostalgia. It feels like this little physical gateway back into the thing that made you fall in love with that character in the first place. I finally understood it. I understood why people collect these things.
I get it.
I understood why this hobby exists. And that realization would lead me down a very dangerous path, because if Deadpool was the gateway drug, then inevitably, I'd have to secure a Wolverine figure. I remember when Hot Toys officially announced the yellow suit Wolverine. The second I saw that reveal, I mean, dude, do I even need it? Like, dude, I don't just want it.
I need it!
Now, unfortunately, I missed that pre-order window. But by that point, the collecting bug had already bitten me, and the hunt was on. I was scouring eBay, Facebook Marketplace, anywhere I could find cool Hot Toys figures for good deals. And before I knew it, I actually started building a little collection. Then one day, Sideshow sends me the notification. The yellow suit Wolverine is back in stock. The second I saw it available again, dude, I immediately ordered that shit, dog. Now, let me just say this right away. This figure is freaking sick, dude. Everything that impressed me about the Deadpool figure, this one just doubles down on it. And a huge part of that is the yellow suit itself. One of the biggest selling points of the Deadpool and Wolverine movie, on top of bringing back our hero Hugh, was the fact that they were finally embracing that classic yellow suit, something fans had been waiting decades to see. And man, did they pull that shit off. They proved you can bring that colorful comic book aesthetic to a big screen without losing the grounded tone of the film. And this Hot Toys representation captures that look beautifully. Getting the figure out of the box and into my hands, I was immediately impressed by the materials, the textures, the colors, everything about it just pops. Right out of the box, he's set up into that classic comic book inspired look. Masked head sculpt, sleeveless arms, and those shoulder armor plates that magnetize right onto the suit. And honestly, that's probably the look I'm gonna run with the most of the time. Accessories. With the deluxe edition, you get the unmasked Hugh Jackman head sculpt, which is honestly really impressive. The likeness is definitely there. You can see the slightly older Hugh Jackman from the film, and the sculpted hair and paint application look fantastic. You also get 3 different mouth plates for the masked sculpt, a relaxed expression, a clenched teeth version, and a slightly more aggressive open teeth look. Then you've got the swap out arms so you can recreate that earlier look from the film with the long sleeves and the unmasked head sculpt. Swapping those arms is pretty simple, you just gotta carefully pop those shoulder pieces off. Bear in mind they can be pretty firm. Man, those jointless silicone arms are freaky and really cool, dude. And of course you get multiple hands with the claw system, which lets you swap out the same pair of claws across different poses. I actually really like how they did that. The display base here is also pretty solid. I prefer this crotch grabber style stand over the dynamic ones, and the design is a little more colorful and fun compared to some of the older bases. But the biggest thing about this figure is honestly the presence. This thing feels special. It feels like a grail piece. And once I had both Deadpool and Wolverine standing together in the cabinet, man, the vibe was just perfect. It felt like this little physical portal back into the movie. Reflecting back on the film, I really appreciate how the movie handled bringing Wolverine back. Logan gave the character an emotional and powerful send-off in 2017, and I don't think Deadpool and Wolverine disrespected that at all. By introducing a different Wolverine variant, they gave Hugh Jackman a chance to come back while still preserving that original story. And as someone who grew up with those early 2000s Fox, Marvel, and X-Men films, seeing so many different cameos from that time was just pure nerd and fan service joy. Before we wrap up the Wolverine talk here, I actually have another Wolverine figure that makes for a pretty fun comparison. This is the Hot Toys Days of Future Past Wolverine figure, specifically the tactical suit version from the apocalyptic future scenes in the film. Now, quick little doomer sidebar for a second. Days of Future Past, dude. What a badass movie. Seeing that original X-Men cast share the screen with the younger First Class cast and adapting that Days of Future Past storyline was such a cool moment for X-Men fans. Now, this look of Wolverine was about the closest you were gonna get to a comic yellow suit look at the time. Because if you remember the movie The Wolverine, they teased that classic comic book suit in the end credits, but we never actually got to see it on screen. Instead, what we got in Days of Future Past was this more grounded tactical interpretation. Still dark, still armored, but with those darker yellow accents running down the arms. I actually picked this figure up back when I had missed the pre-order window for the Deadpool and Wolverine yellow suit figure. At the time, this was the closest thing to filling that Wolverine shape heart-shaped hole in my heart. And when you compare the two figures side by side, you can definitely tell they came from two different generations of Hot Toys. The newer Wolverine clearly has the more modern proportions and sculpt work, but this older one still holds up surprisingly well. You can still see the Hugh Jackman likeness, but between the sculpt and the paint application, you can definitely tell it's from an earlier era of Hot Toys. What makes this one really unique though is the rooted hair and beard on the head sculpt. I actually don't even know who the original customizer was or how it ended up with this figure when I bought it, but that rooted hair definitely changes the dynamic and gives to the figure a very different presence compared to the newer sculpted hair version. But the really cool thing about this one is actually the custom masked head sculpt that came with it. This was made by a customizer called ZD Toys. It's basically an interpretation of what that teased Wolverine mask might have looked like if they had actually committed to it on screen. When you compare it next to the official Deadpool and Wolverine mask sculpt, you can really tell that these are completely different interpretations. The new one is brighter and more comic accurate, while this one feels more dark, more tactical, almost like an armored version of the suit. One thing I really love about this older figure is that the claws are actually die-cast metal. They're heavier, sharper, and feel really solid. Meanwhile, the newer Wolverine uses plastic claws, which still look great, but these metal ones definitely have their own charm. So overall, this is just a really interesting little piece of Wolverine collecting history. Two different eras of Hot Toys, two different interpretations of what a yellow suit-inspired Wolverine could look like, and honestly, they both look pretty badass. But before we wrap this whole thing up, there's one more thing I want to show you. This next one is actually, it's not from any of the movies. It's the Hot Toys Marvel Zombies Deadpool. This one was kind of an accidental purchase. I randomly stumbled across it on eBay, threw out a lowball offer just for the hell of it, and to my surprise the seller accepted it, so suddenly I owned a zombie Deadpool figure. Now, I wasn't even planning on buying this figure, but once it showed up and I got it in hand, I was like, alright, this thing's actually kind of fun. It's based off the Marvel Zombies comic storyline, which if you've never read that run, you absolutely should. It's this dark alternate universe where all the Marvel heroes become flesh-eating zombies. It's written by Robert Kirkman, the guy who created The Walking Dead, and the figure definitely leans into that whole vibe. You've got the exposed flesh, bones, ribcage details, nasty zombie mouth sculpts, freaky eyes. It's just full zombie mode. And even though it's a goofy little side figure, you still get that Hot Toys level of detail in the suit, accessories, the Desert Eagles, the katanas. All of the classic Deadpool stuff is there. Now, is this the definitive Deadpool in the collection? Definitely not. But as a weird little horror comic variant, yeah, it's pretty damn fun. These figures are just a few of the grails I picked up since I got sucked into this hobby. I've got to give a lot of credit to Deadpool and Wolverine for that, because that movie really reignited my love of movies, pop culture, and ultimately collecting again. And what's really been cool about coming back to this hobby is that it's also reignited my creativity. It's gotten me back into photography, filming, editing, trying to make my displays look as cool as possible, which led to that whole saga of upgrading the Brotar display cabinet for my Hot Toys. And by the way, to everyone who supported that video, seriously, thank you guys so much. The support on this channel so far has been awesome. I've been having a lot of fun making these videos, experimenting, finding the voice and the tone of this channel, and honestly, there's still no Grandmaster plan here. Again, I'm not really trying to be a figure review channel or a film essay channel or anything super specific and niche like that. I'm just here chasing that nostalgic spark by nerding out about movies, collectibles, games, art, anything that inspires that creative energy. And I'm really looking forward to making more content. So thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, stay doomed.